Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Odds on Premier League. It's Matchday 26. Mr. Tom Rennie, good morning and hello. How are you?
Matchday 26. Oh, we are
Yes,
so deep into the season. We are so
we
close
are.
to getting our social lives back. Just like 12 weeks to go, man.
Just a little push more and we are there. Yes, May is coming. Absolutely. And Tom, actually, before we start with the show, I would like to ask you for the League Cup final in Wembley last Sunday, especially a little take on the atmosphere because you were there,
Hmm.
and I guess it was a good fun, that one.
Do you know what? It was brilliant. It's the one I remember. I've been to the last maybe 12 or so Carabao Cup finals, League Cup finals, and it'll be the one I remember the Newcastle fans were at. Because, I mean, I live an hour and a half away from Wembley and on the east side of London. And I went for breakfast at a cafe at the top of my road on the morning of the cup final. And there were 4 Newcastle fans in there. They were just everywhere in London. They made a terrific atmosphere of it. The team didn't turn up, unfortunately. I think that whole narrative of we're not quite ready to be at this level was borne out. And Man United, they've got Casemiro, they've got Varane, they've got Rashford in terrific form, and they just look like a team ready to win stuff. Whereas Newcastle looked like a club that were happy to be there. And that's the way it played out in the end.
All right, that's good, Tom. So we have already people there waiting for your analysis, tips, and prediction. But before we get started, please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell. But now, let's go. All right, Tom. First match we got is Manchester City and Newcastle. The opportunity for City at lunchtime to reduce the gap again to 2 points, at least for a few hours. 5 consecutive wins for Pep's team at the Etihad, 8 without losing there. A decent display against Bristol on Tuesday in the FA Cup. But I want to see how they cope with the Newcastle agility in transition. At the beginning of the season, I know a long time ago, they almost couldn't handle it, and the match ended in a thriller 3-3, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
We would see the impact of losing, of course, the final in for Newcastle, but I think it's definitely a moment of the season for them, and especially after what happened in Wembley, to see if their push for Champions League is real or not. I know they haven't scored against Liverpool, but they had great chances. They just weren't clinical enough. And City will offer a similar high back line. So I want to see what happened with that. We can always see City scoring, Tom, but can we see both teams scoring here? 1.96 for that market, both teams to score.
Oh, that's such a tough question. Look, I think with Manchester City recently, despite the fact they've got back in the title race, they're 5 points off top as we speak. They thrashed Bristol City in the FA Cup. Got another favourable draw in the FA Cup as well. Just bring us the old Manchester final already. For goodness sake, those balls must be hot. I'm still not quite seeing the peak Man City that we expect to see. The thing is with these teams, these great teams with great players, the season can be sketchy. There can be patchy form. When they come to the fore is the final 10 games, the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, the final. This is when they peak. They spend their entire season building to this peak. And maybe that's why you've seen Phil Foden disappear for 2 months and now he's back. Maybe that's why we've seen Kevin De Bruyne disappear for a few games and then he starts again. Maybe that's why we're seeing occasionally a Kanji start games when Laporte has been fit or Diaz has been fit or Nathan Ake getting lots of games, because it's all about making sure the very best players are in the team across the next 10, 12 games. So that's what's interesting for me about Manchester City. I think they are still more than capable of being champions, more than capable of winning the 13 games remaining, including this one this weekend. And at some point, we are going to see a lift-off. When that happens, that's going to be the deciding factor as to when and if they are going to be champions, when they retake top spot. I think there are issues with Kevin De Bruyne. Is he going to be able to return to form and fitness in the Premier League and play every game? Phil Foden, he's now back in. Does that damage what they've got out of Jack Grealish, what they've got out of Riyad Mahrez in recent weeks? And in central midfield, It's been Rodri and so what? Rodri and Bernardo Silva? Is it going to be Rodri and Calvin Phillips? Does Rodri come back in and play that central role? Is this 3-2-4-1-1 formation they've been doing? Is that going to work moving forward? Lots of questions to answer for Man City right now. And it's the attack, weirdly, that we've been questioning because they couldn't score in the game against Tottenham Hotspur. They struggled to score the goals against Aston Villa. Struggled against Nottingham Forest in a game where they should have won comfortably and didn't. So there's your question marks there for Manchester City. Does the attack work? And against Newcastle, that's going to be an ultra, super, mega defensive display. You know, they've built the season on how good the defense has been, right? It has been terrific. Still just 15 goals conceded in the Premier League this season. That's absolutely terrific. It remains terrific. So you're in an issue there where, you know, Pope comes back in to replace Loris Karius, who I thought was terrific in the Carabao Cup final, by the way. If that happens in this game, then you've got Botman and Cher, terrific. Trippier has been incredible. The midfield, Bruno Guimaraes makes them better in midfield, though he picked up a knock in the Carabao Cup final, so who knows if he'll be fit for this game. So I think they'll play very defensive. They'll do whatever they can to stop Man City scoring. I think they'll do that quite impressively. It's at the other end. Callum Wilson was so easily marshalled in the Carabao Cup final. Massive disappointment that was. Miguel Almiron is industrious, remains industrious, but that magic touch of earlier in the season, that's gone. And Alan Maximin, God, I love watching him. I can watch him all day, every day, play for anybody.
So electric.
He's so electric, but does he deliver?
And not often, no.
The answer is probably not. You know, he might score a hat-trick in a couple of weeks against the likes of, you know, West Ham or Everton or something. But in a game like this, he doesn't deliver consistently, which is why in the next phase of Newcastle, he probably won't be part of it. So how's this game going to go? Well, I think you're looking at relatively low scoring because you look at Newcastle's recent games. They're 1-0s, they're 0-0s, the 2-0 loss against Liverpool, the 2-0 loss against United last weekend. But even then, they don't get battered. So this is not an Asian handicap Manchester City win. I certainly wouldn't discount the draw market. I would not discount it because at around 5-1, that is quite nice. So you can certainly try and juice up some money here by looking at draw 5, 5.1, 5.5 by the weekend. And Newcastle do get draws in these games, and City have drawn them this season. Even Everton went to City and got a draw this season when City had an off day. I still would go Manchester City. I'd look at the under 2.5. That's a 1-0. That's a 2-0. No more than that. I don't see Newcastle scoring. The draw for me would be 0-0, but I would just tip City in a low-scoring game.
Reading some comments here. Viper, yes, Man City over 1.5 goals. That's Igor. People, yes, back in Man City and under 2.5, as you were saying. Definitely value in draw. People reckoning, of course. That's true at more than 5 point something. That's well. That could be someone paying their holidays quite early with that one, which could be nice, of course. So that is Manchester City, Newcastle. We can now then move, Tom, from Manchester to London. Arsenal in the Emirates with Bournemouth. To be honest, Tom, I don't know, in fixture like this, seriously, it's when you admire supporters because you know what you're gonna get on Saturday in North London. But yet they still gonna travel. They're gonna wake up early, take the train from Bournemouth to Paddington, a train which is expensive and it's gonna be delayed. Then they're gonna have to take the tube, which is expensive as well, and it's gonna be delayed as well. And then Arsenal scores in the first 15 minutes of the match, and that's when everything clicks in, and you say like, "What I am doing here?" You know, it's like I knew it was going to happen. Yesterday, great night for Arsenal. Once again, great to see players like Martinelli back to their best because in the last few weeks, even before the Leicester game when he scored the winner for Arsenal, he was not as we have seen him before the World Cup. Saka again is every time he touches the ball, it's like, oh, what a player this boy is. It looks like nothing goes wrong for them at the moment. Very low odds for an Arsenal win, of course, 1.26. So the Asian handicap market, Tom, for Arsenal, the Asian handicap market minus only gets hot from minus 1.75. What do you expect here?
Well, look, I think you're absolutely right to say that Arsenal are going to win and win comfortably. They're going to win comfortably because they're a brilliant team. It's not about the deficiencies of Bournemouth right now. It's not about the deficiencies of anyone when you play Arsenal at this moment in time. It's because Arsenal were just playing terrifically, terrifically well. And I think it's interesting with Arsenal. You mentioned Martinelli. Go back to the Leicester game. Suddenly, Martinelli's central striker and Eddie Nketiah is dropped. So that's quite interesting because they're doing things. Arteta is now doing things that we didn't expect, that the opposition will not be expecting. He's moving those two players, Saka and Martinelli, who have been cornerstones of everything Arsenal have done this season, into new positions. Get your most dangerous players into the most dangerous positions. And that's been really interesting to see. They're doing things slightly differently. They're tweaking. And that has helped Arsenal in the last couple of games, where previously, of course, against Man City, but against Brentford before that, it had just gone a little bit flat. It had got a little bit predictable. And maybe the pressure of the City game coming up had got to Arsenal. I don't know. They were certainly not at their best in that particular game at Emirates Stadium, but things have turned around since then. The Villa game felt quite pivotal. Thomas Partey coming back in makes a big difference too. I just wonder in this game, after midweek, after Leicester, maybe Thomas Partey is rested. They give him some time to bring him back to full fitness, and they give Jorginho another start here because they can do that against Bournemouth because they are just significantly better than Bournemouth. I think with the confidence they've got, the consistency they've shown, there's no chance of a Bournemouth victory here. So how do you make some money? Well, look, I think they'll score at least 2. So you can certainly go over 1.5. You can do a nation handicap -1. I think they'll win by at least 2 clear goals. That puts you in the -2 market for the Asian handicap. I think you combine that with Martinelli and Saka, either as creators or goal scorers. Look at the shots market. I think they'll get over 20 shots in this game, which is quite a lot. That's 2 or 3 shots from Bukayo Saka. He has at least 2 shots in every game. So combine it with the Saka to score and Saka to have shots market. You can also look at the Saka to be fouled market over 5 times. Will bring you a decent amount of money too. That's what comes in on average most weeks. And Martinelli to score and Arsenal to win will bring it up to around about 3-1, which again, it makes it more interesting than it currently is. For Bournemouth, there's not a real much point in doing much deep analysis this week. In going forward, there's more games to come that are winnable for them. I think for them, the best thing is to try and keep the score down, as goal difference might be important come the end of this season. 48 goals conceded in the Premier League already this season. That's the worst in the league. A really good result for them is a nice, tidy 1-0 loss. I can't see a scenario where Bournemouth score a goal.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone in the comments going for an Arsenal win, over 2.5 goals. Jose Miguel saying Arsenal Asian handicap -1, 2, but pretty much everyone, of course, backing the Gunners to do the job and to restore 5-point lead gap at the top if Manchester City wins earlier at lunchtime against Newcastle. So now we can move to Villa Park. Aston Villa, Tom, against Crystal Palace. Unai Emery's team had a great result on Matchday 25 away to Everton, especially in the second half. I think they were quite good. They seem a team right now that if manages to keep a clean sheet, then they can win games. But if they concede, it's likely the story won't finish very well for them. The good news is that they are facing a Palace team that they cannot scare anyone up front in 2023. This side, you could trust them to get points back to London because, I don't know, having a look at the double chance for Crystal Palace, odds around 1.84. They look attractive, but I still don't know if they can do it.
Yeah, I think that's really good analysis, actually, with Aston Villa. And I think that's true of quite a lot of teams in the Premier League this season. If you score the first goal, you've got a very good chance of winning. In truth, that's often a fact in football. Score the first goal, protect the lead. But the Premier League is such a marginal league this year, from Aston Villa down to Bournemouth. That's 11th down to 19th. There's only 10 points in it. That's a lot of teams and very little difference between them. I don't think Aston Villa are in the relegation mix, I should add, but it just shows you how tight it is. And I think Aston Villa have made some good improvement under Unai Emery from the previous manager, Steven Gerrard. They look more solid. They look more organised. There's been more fight about them, more threat about them. The decision to sell Danny Ings to West Ham and make Ollie Watkins the lead striker is inspired. It's what Gerrard needed to do before him. They had to pick which one was the man and let the other one go. They have decided, and they've decided well, and it's 5-5 for Ollie Watkins. So look out for that market with Aston Villa right now in terrific form. He had 4 shots on target in his last match, 5 goals in 5 games. He's the penalty taker too. So that's the market you're looking here for Aston Villa. Ollie Watkins, 2 shots on target is 4-1, and he had 5 in the last game. So that seems like quite a promising market here for Aston Villa, who in general, I thought they might kind of fade away, and they may still do across the final 7 games of the season, because safety will be assured and European qualification can't be achieved. We're heading towards that barrier, but at the moment, following last week, there's a bit of a wind in the sails of Aston Villa once again. Plus, they've been very good away from home. I think it's 4 away wins of 5 under Unai Emery. So that's pretty impressive as well. And of course, Everton, they beat away from home last week, so that's quite impressive. At home, there are issues there, but if you look at the teams they've played at home, they've been very, very good teams, apart from Leicester, which was weird. But they couldn't beat Arsenal, couldn't beat City, but certainly played well in those games. So, look at the Watkins market and Villa to score in this game. I think they will score in this game. For Crystal Palace, it's 4 draws in 5, all relatively low scoring. The Liverpool game last week was dire. The Brentford game the previous week should have won it, but they were caught late. The Brighton game, they were utterly outplayed and somehow scrambled the draw. They are going to ball their way to safety. They're not safe yet, just 6 points away from Everton. They're very difficult to beat, but they're very difficult to watch. I wouldn't right now be betting on a Crystal Palace victory under any scenario, even though Wilf Zaha is back. It screams draw, this game, because of what Crystal Palace do, and because Aston Villa haven't quite been at their best at home this season. It could be a pivotal game in terms of Villa. If they win it, we might start talking about them differently, but it screams draw to me. 3.5 to 4-1 is nice. Go under 2.5, that's a 0-0, that's a 1-1 draw. If you want to double chance it with Villa, that's fine, but I'd be looking for a draw and the Ollie Watkins market. That's where you make money here.
Someone asking Tom in the comment section if you recommend individual fools market. I don't know if you have any opinion on that. Individual fools market.
Oh, on some players, yes. I would certainly be looking at people like Jefferson Lerma. I'd be looking at people like Casemiro. I'd be looking at people like Lucas Paqueta. These people do 3 to 5 fouls in every single game. Rodri's another one. So, yes, I would. But the trouble is, all those players I've mentioned, you can guarantee are going to commit fouls and maybe get yellow carded. It's going to be quite low odds to do so. So, it's not something that particularly attracts me. I think that I like the positives market of shots, corners, goals, that sort of thing. I think that's more likely to bring you money in than the fouls market, because the obvious ones are quite low.
And people recognizing what you said about the draw, good value in there, 3.51. And just to add on the Ollie Watkins market that you were mentioning, trusting him to score, Villa to score first is 1.75 as well on this match against Crystal Palace. And now, Tom, we're going to have to move somewhere where I wanted to arrive, because next in line is Brighton against West Ham. To be honest with you, for the last week, Tom, since the last Oddspedia show we done together, anytime I face a dilemma of what to choose, I call it the David Moyes challenge. Your boy saying that Moyes will freak out if having to choose between almond or lactose-free milk was in my head all this time for a week. So I have that, I call it the David Moyes challenge every time I need to decide on something. But at the end of the day, he's done his job, or his team done his job against Forest. 4-0, Tom. The last 20 minutes were amazing, mostly scoring on at the end of the game. But even before that, West Ham did quite well to score even before the second half. Danny Ings scoring a brace, showing Escamaca how they do it here, even as Antonio scoring 2. Rice, and the type of performance, Tom, that reminds you that, I don't know, he cannot live for less than 100 million pounds if someone paid before 80 for Maguire. And I don't know if you take anything from last night elimination from FA Cup, although I read some tweets from you saying like you will drop it and concentrate, focus fully on the Premier League. And Brighton arrives somehow rested. They didn't play last week. They did it on Tuesday though, and they gone to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. I think in the last few weeks they dropped the level a little bit, but they're still, of course, a very nice team to watch. Not only West Ham, actually, Tom, left the relegation zone with the win on Saturday, but if they win again against Brighton, although I think you have a statistic which might prove difficult for West Ham, but if they win again, so 2 wins in a row, and you are like 13 in the table.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll start with Brighton here because they're the home team, and I think that they've had such an interesting season. At the moment, there's a lot of players who potentially could be out for Brighton, and quite important ones too. We know Leroy Colwell is missing. We know Pervis Estupinian is missing. Solly March, who's been terrific, might be missing for this game. Lallana as well is missing for this game with the thigh problems. There's a few players who probably would play for Brighton, but that's not really a bright spot for West Ham because this happens to Brighton all the time, and they still find a way to win with the likes of Alexis McAllister and whatnot. So, look, I think Brighton are a very, very good team. At the moment, though, I just feel like their season is teetering a bit. I think the FA Cup should take almost the entirety of their focus now. And at home, it's 3 defeats in their last 5. It's 4 defeats across the season. And if it comes to home form, they're actually very mid-table. Them and West Ham have identical home records. It's West Ham's diabolical away record, which has put them in the position they are currently in. So you'd still make Brighton favourites to win this game because they are a better team than West Ham in almost every regard if you look across the season. West Ham won't win this game. And they won't win it because they don't beat Brighton. I don't necessarily believe in the fates, but I can tell you that they don't want West Ham to beat Brighton. The last time West Ham beat Brighton was in 2012 in the Championship when Ricardo Vazte scored a hat-trick in a 5-0 victory for West Ham. Since then, Brighton have drawn or won every single game. There's been games where West Ham have scored first. Brighton have won. There's been games where West Ham have been leading in the last few minutes. Brighton have drawn or won. There's been games where West Ham have been at home. Brighton have won. There's been games where Brighton have been relegation threatened and West Ham have been looking to qualify for the Champions League. Brighton have won. Like, they just beat West Ham. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it does happen. And it will happen again this weekend, which is a shame for West Ham, as you mentioned. They really should be pulling away from this now. The first half of the season was terrible. The middle bit was especially bad, but it's 1 defeat in their last 5 in the league. They've certainly found a team somewhere, and they've got Danny Ings who can now score a goal for them. And in Ings, Benrahma and Bowen, that's a pretty decent front 3. In Paqueta, Soucek and Rice, it's a pretty decent midfield. Hopefully Kurt Zuma comes back in alongside Aguirre this week, and it's a pretty strong centre-half pairing. And Alphonse Areola is going to play in goal because Fabianski's out. It's a mid-table team at best, but they've got to start winning games. If they can beat Brighton and Villa in the next 2, they're on 29 points. They're 6 or 7 away from safety. And then we can stop talking about West Ham in this conversation. I still don't think West Ham will go down, but if they lose the next 2, they could feasibly bottom of the Premier League with 10 games to go. And then it becomes a little bit like, no, that conversation's gone now. You're going to get relegated unless you win 5 of 10. So it's a massive game for West Ham. It's less for Brighton. I think West Ham should go there treating this like a cup final, which I was really surprised by the strength of the team in the Man United game in midweek. I was happy to toss it off, but seemingly David Moyes wasn't. I want to see Lanzini and the second string in that game. I don't want to see Paqueta and Declan Rice, but there we are. A lot of exertion in that game as well, and a frustrating result to boot. So how's the game going to go? There's no scenario I back West Ham because they're one of the worst away teams in the league this season. On face value, I see 2 very even teams. I wouldn't discount the draw at 4-1, under 2.5, 1-1 draw, 0-0 draw. I wouldn't bet against it, but history tells me Brighton win, and I am not going to do anything other than a Brighton win. Double chance it if you want, but I'll be going low shots, low chances. Certainly no goals in the first 15 minutes. West Ham have not scored a single goal in the opening 15 minutes of any game this season, so avoid that market. Low scoring, Brighton win, double chance it with a draw.
Yeah, people finding value in the draw. Again, they can see there on screen also 4, and also going for the under 2.5 market, like Jose Miguel, 1.97, the under 2.5 market for this Brighton West Ham. From there, we can move to an interesting one. Next, we have Tom Chelsea at home with Leeds. The Blues at Tottenham last Sunday were terrible. Awful, no intensity, no creativity. I mean, in previous games, they were creating chances at least. You mentioned that even when they lost against Southampton, that they had like 6 or 7 clear chances to score. Well, it was not the case against Tottenham. They are now 5 games without winning in the league, 1 goal in the last 6 matches in all competitions. There are 91 clubs in England, top 4 divisions, that have scored more than Chelsea in 2023. Patience is running low with Potter. Now Leeds did the homework with Southampton. and lifted themselves out of the red zone with Javi Gracia. Yes, out of the FA Cup during the week, but they can focus now on the only job that matters for them, I believe, which is survival. Can you hear the type of match where Chelsea scores and finally everything starts to click in here? Or to play Leeds at home and paying almost 170 for a win, it shows that you are not doing very well right now for Chelsea.
Well, Chelsea have got to win. And I do think they're going to turn it around at some point because the quality of player they've got is staggering. It's a staggeringly strong squad. Their reserves are better than most people's first team. So at some point, it is going to come good. And the whole they haven't got a striker narrative is bizarre because Man City won the league last year without a striker. They've got a lot of people who can score a goal. They've just got to find the right pathway to doing so. Don't ask me what the team's going to be. I haven't got a clue. He's making 6 changes per game, so I have no idea. It could be anything. I'm not Marty McFly in Back to the Future. I haven't got the sports almanac, so I have no idea what they're going to do and how they're going to play. I'd expect at least 5 changes, though, considering the way it's been. For Leeds United, I think that we saw against Fulham in midweek the way they play. I think we saw Javi Gracia isn't going to be able to change much from the Jesse Marsh days. They're going to try and outcompete and outfight the opponent. Maybe a little more cautious than the Jesse Marsh and Bielsa team, but I think they're going to try and score goals and win games with Nonto and Somerville and Rutter, who I think is a better choice up front than Bamford because he can be fit. And I think that trio, though very, very young, all under 21 years of age, could be threatening as the season goes on. I think maybe the fact the team is so young could be an issue for Leeds moving forward, but it certainly means they'll play brave. This game, goals at both ends. I think we will get goals this week. Look at the shots market. I think Leeds will have over 8 shots, and I think Chelsea will have over 15 shots. I think there's going to be goals at both ends. I think this is the game where Chelsea do finally do something because eventually they're going to. Eventually they will win a game, and eventually they'll do it convincingly. And Leeds are a very open team. I think Leeds, of all the teams down there, are the most likely to finish 18th. Go down with Bournemouth and Southampton. And this is the kind of game, I know we said it against Southampton recently for Chelsea, they are going to score goals. Look at the over 15 shots. Look at the over 10 shots on target. Look at goals at both ends. And Chelsea are going to win this game. They simply have to.
Yes, and Potter would love to see that happening for sure more than anyone else. And yes, people in the comments believing that this could be the starting point maybe for Chelsea. So they go for a Chelsea win. Although we had some as well people arguing that the value in here is on Leeds. We will see on Saturday afternoon. Now Wolverhampton against Tottenham in the Molineux. Tom, Spurs very good second half against Chelsea. Another clean sheet, which is important as winning for them. Or at least when I'm saying them, I mean for Conte. Out of the FA Cup last night against Sheffield. Yes, of course, many changes in the starting 11. I've been reading in social media Tottenham supporters a bit upset because they've thrown away the opportunity to fight for a trophy. Something similar happened last season when they got out at the City Ground against Nottingham Forest as well in the FA Cup. I guess anyway, for Daniel Levy, the eyes are on top 4 and the need of Champions League money. 4 Premier League wins in a run for Spurs. Wolverhampton winless in the last 3 league matches. Last night, a defeat in Anfield. Tottenham has the chance here to make the gap with Newcastle bigger in the 4th spot, provided the City does the job against the Magpies. A draw at halftime, as being the case lately with Tottenham, shows odds of 2.2, which is attractive. But what do you think, Tom?
Oh, tough one, this. Real tough one, because Wolves have shown some improvement since the new manager has come in, Lopetegui, replacing Bruno Lage, and that weird bit with Steve Davis in the middle. I don't think they play much different to what they would have done under Bruno Lage. I think everyone just had enough of him. It's still quite defensive. It's still hit on the break. It's still, a very solid and unspectacular way of playing football. I think that will get them safety. I think the squad's good enough to get safety. I think Cunha coming in up front has made a massive difference for them. And I think there's a doubt about him playing in this game. And I think Craig Dawson at centre-half has been an improvement on what they had before in Collins. So, look, I think Wolves are solid and could easily win this game. They could easily win this game as they've won other games at home, West Ham and Liverpool recently, with just pretty solid, do your jobs right performances. The thing is that I've seen Tottenham play so bad so many times this year and win the game. so many times. Fulham away, West Ham recently, Chelsea recently. They don't do a great deal, yet they find a way to win. I think the FA Cup disappointment in midweek was monumental for Tottenham Hotspur because, yes, the Champions League is important. Sure it is.
Yeah.
But the FA Cup is there to be won for a team like Tottenham, and it's been there to be won for some years, and they find a way to lose games they shouldn't be losing. There's no scenario, though Sheffield United are good this year in the Championship, that Tottenham should be losing that game. They went there with a very strong team and found a way to lose. I think the basic lack of endeavour about Tottenham at times has cost them. The ultra caution first has cost them. And if you score the first goal against them, it could be an issue. The trouble is teams don't often score the first goal against them. So the first goal in this game is going to be absolutely crucial. I think, firstly, the under 2.5. This is not going to be a goal fest. I think that Tottenham are more likely to shade it than Wolves. And at 2.3 for Tottenham on its own, that's already pretty decent for Tottenham to go on to win the game. I'd be looking here for low shots, low chances, under 2.5, maybe under 1.5 in this game. That's a 1-0 either way. Tottenham at 2s is pretty decent. The Tottenham win, low scoring, combine it with some Kane stats. 2 shots on target is 3-1. Him to score a goal in the game is going to be around 2-1. To score a header is around 9-1. Scored lots of headers this season. So that's what I'd be looking at. Low scoring, shade for Tottenham if you pick a winner.
You said a tough one to call in the comments. Can't figure out Tottenham at all. Will be staying clear of this match.
Yeah.
Tottenham are a nightmare to bet on. So yes, pretty much the narrative on this one. Let's see on to the next one, which we have Tommy's Southampton, Leicester. Southampton. Southampton cannot beat at home a League Two team like Grimsby Town. Can they do it against Leicester? I mean, but Leicester at the same time can say, well, we couldn't win against the Championship club because that's what happened against Blackburn Rovers. Both teams getting out of the FA Cup, one Grimsby Town, the other one Blackburn. Brendan Rodgers' team is on 3 wins and 3 defeats in the last 6 in all competitions. Irregularity and mixed results maybe is the story of their season. But over Southampton, I trust them. And 2.71 for a win is quite generous for Leicester.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to bet on Southampton one time this season. I'm not going to do it. The only thing I've got is James Ward-Prowse to score a free kick. And I might advise that in every game. James Ward-Prowse to score from outside the area, 7-1. I advise that in every game. But apart from that, they're not a team I'll be betting on at any point because when you think they're going to lose, they go and win a game at Chelsea. And often I think they're going to lose and there's no great money in that market. One home win all season, the worst home team this season, the worst team overall this season. They do not have a Premier League squad. They do not have a Premier League manager. They will not be staying in the Premier League this season. And I can't see a scenario they win this game. The defence is weak. The midfield is poor, bar Ward-Prowse, and they don't score enough goals. I think it's only 10 goals scored all season at home and 7 defeats in that time. They lose to good teams. They lose to bad teams. They even found a way to lose to Wolverhampton Wanderers last time out at home. They lost to Forest at home this season. So don't look at Southampton at all. For Leicester City, the only doubt about them for me is James Maddison. I say it every week. James Maddison is as good as Christian Eriksen. That's how good he is. And if he plays, they will rip Southampton apart and score at least 2 goals. If he's not fit, I would still shade for Leicester City, despite how poor they were in midweek, despite the fading form of Jamie Vardy. Just 1 goal all season for Jamie Vardy. Sadly, I think his peak is long over now, and the rebuild will be required. Even despite Leicester's poor defence this season, I still wouldn't back Southampton to beat them. Look at Leicester win, a low-scoring game, under 2.5. If James Maddison is fit and available, look at him to assist, to have over 2 shots and maybe to score. And you could also maybe look at the Ward-Prowse to score from outside the area market. But don't touch Southampton.
So Leicester then to win at 2.71. The next one, I don't know if you, but I found it difficult, the call. To be honest, Nottingham Forest in the City Ground against Everton. Last night was painful for the Toffees, although they shoot themselves in the foot with that mistake at the end of the first half that led them 2-0 down. Dyche has more defeats than wins to show now so far, but this is a must win for them if they want to breathe some fresh air in the relegation battle. For Forest, Tom, after the draw with City, for sure the expectation maybe were slightly different going to West Ham, but ultimately it's their home matches which is going to define their season. 19 points harvested at home. They are 8 in the home games table, but you lose and you have Everton only 1 point behind you. Again, high odds either way for a win. 283 for Forest, 295 for Everton. Again, is the value on the drawing here?
The value is on the under. That's where the value is, because
yeah.
these two teams don't score a great deal of goals. And when Forest have won games this season, and they've all been at home, bar one against Southampton, they have been 1-0 against West Ham, 1-0 against Palace, 1-0 against Leeds, 2-0 against Leicester. They don't score many goals at home. Defensively, very sound. They compete against the teams that they play. The City ground is on such a buzz about being in the Premier League. That's got them over the line at times in games. And defensively, they've been very, very good. Though I thought Keylor Navas was atrocious last week at West Ham. I mean, he just couldn't deal with the single cross that came into the box. It was really poor from him. I still know Dean Henderson, who I think is a better goalkeeper at this moment in their careers. So that's an issue, I think, for Nottingham Forest. There were a long injury list too, but I think the team is broadly settled now. The front three is broadly settled. You kind of know at long last what you're going to get from Nottingham Forest, and they'll try and score a goal, and they'll shut this game down. And it's a perfect opponent to do that against, because Everton do not score a lot of goals. Is Calvert-Lewin fit? If he is he going to be on form? If not, there's no one else to score a goal. And the 2 goals of the Sean Dyche era came from a corner. James Tarkowski scored it, and Seamus Coleman shanking across that went in against Leeds. That's it. So look, it's going to be the under. Go under 2.5. I'd actually go under 1.5 in this game. That means 0-0 or 1-0 either way. First goal wins it. I don't see both teams scoring, and I would just shave for Nottingham Forest in a low-scoring game, because they've got 2 draws and 3 wins in the last 5 wins across the season, and a whole bunch of 1-0 victories. I can see them doing that again, and I can't see Everton, if they concede 1, scoring the 2 that would be required to win it.
Okay, so under is the market for Nottingham Forest, Everton. The next one, Tom, is the biggest one of this Matchday 26. Liverpool in Anfield against Manchester United. It may sound weird, or maybe not, but after lifting a trophy, you don't think that winning or losing don't you think that winning or losing at Liverpool could tell us, Tom, more about the real state of this Manchester United than winning the League Cup? Manchester United can start the game 14 points behind Arsenal, and Liverpool 9 points behind the 4th spot. Last time in Anfield in the Premier League was a 4-0 for Liverpool. Of course, completely different moments in time. But at the same time, I believe if there is a team that can score 4 against this Manchester United, that is Liverpool, even when they are far from their best, as is the case now. But on a good night, the quality is there. Would you look for goals, or you imagine a more conservative approach from both sides here?
Yeah, tricky, isn't it? Because so often we hype these games, so often they end up with a diabolical 0-0. So I don't want to go wild, but look, I do think Liverpool, good victory in midweek, solid victory against Wolves in midweek. You know, getting back on the flat track and winning games at home is important. But the issues that we've discussed long this season are still there. Van Dijk and who at centre-half? What's happened to Van Dijk? Is he ever going to come back to the player he once was? The midfield, who plays? Game the other week had Jordan Henderson, James Milner and Naby Keita in midfield. Nowhere near it. Nowhere near a title-winning midfield for Liverpool. And up front, Nunez has come back, but he's hot and cold. Gakpo hot and cold, and Salah has had his worst goal-scoring season since his Chelsea days. So all sorts of issues there with Liverpool, though, of course, it's Anfield and their biggest rival, so it's going to be a massive game for them. In terms of Man United, your question was quite interesting, and I think we learned a lot about Man United this week, because the win over Leicester City in the Premier League last weekend, or the weekend before even, was really impressive. Last Premier League weekend, it was a kind of to and fro sort of game. David De Gea again makes an incredible save and keeps them in the game, and then they go on to win it, and they win it impressively. The cup final victory was one of the most professional cup final victories you're ever going to see. They swatted Newcastle aside in 40 minutes, then shut the game down. And then against a West Ham team who are playing okay at the moment, they go 1-0 down at home. They bring on the cavalry, and they find a way to win that game. In the end, it flattered them, a 3-1 scoreline, but they're through in the FA Cup. So right now, they're riding a crest of a wave. And we often talk about, as a team playing too many games. You can't have too many games if you're winning. If you're winning and you get that winning feeling more and more and more and more and more, you crave it even more and you get it even more. And that's where Manchester United are right now. And I think a loss this weekend might be devastating, but a win this weekend, and I think they continue that feeling of they are invincible. That's how they feel right now. Like Boris in GoldenEye. They feel utterly invincible at this moment in time. That's one of the hardcore fans there. So I just feel like in this game, Man United are a better team. Defensively better. Midfield, they are stronger. Casemiro fit for a big Premier League game will make a massive difference. And Marcus Rashford is the form player in the Premier League right now. I can't see a scenario where I would bet on a Liverpool win. I don't say I don't see it, but I will say I wouldn't bet on it. The things I think you're looking at here is both teams to score, because I think both teams will score. I don't see it being a wild 3-3, but I can certainly see both teams scoring 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, those kind of score lines. What are Man United going to do? That's where your money is. Marcus Rashford to score around 3-1. Absolutely. 2 shots on target from each team in each half. That's quite a nice bet at 5-1. Salah to have 2 shots on target at 3-1 is also quite nice. Both teams score. Pick a winner and look at the Rashford and Salah markets, both to have shots on target. But I think this is going to be a really good game with both teams scoring.
Yes, in the comments, like Mr. B, it's Manchester United and over 2.5. For some others, the opinion is like these games tend to be a draw in the end. Someone pointing at the double chance for Manchester United, which is actually now standing at 1.64. But definitely the biggest game of this match day 26 in the Premier League. Last stop was London, Tom. Brentford against Fulham. We haven't seen the beast last weekend, so Thomas Frank had good 2 weeks to prepare and keep building on an amazing season. They are both on 35 points. Brentford, 11 league games without losing. The last time they were defeated, the World Cup squad for Qatar were not even announced. So, yeah, that's a pretty long time. We know Fulham drew with Wolverhampton at home last Saturday, but it's better, much better in the FA Cup against Leeds. They are now in the quarterfinal, 2-0 victory. Solomon is their player in form, a goal to beat Brighton, a goal to save a point with Wolverhampton, and again on the score sheet in the FA Cup. It's understandable, I understand, provided the amazing home form they had all season, that Brentford is favourite for the bookies here. 2.09 for a win, Fulham 3.95. But 3.95 for Fulham at this stage with the form they are having, again, it's a kind of tip that could be paying your summer holidays by the beginning of March.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, around 4-1 for Fulham to win, because, I mean, they've gone to Brighton and won last week in the Premier League. They are a team that are capable of scoring at any moment. You mentioned Solomon scoring 2 identical goals in 2 games, but 2 brilliant goals as well. Mitrovic is fit, makes a massive difference. Palhinha scoring from distance. Defense looks strong. It's all good for Fulham at this moment in time. But as you mentioned, 11 games without loss against Brentford. I'm not going to be betting on them to lose a game because the market doesn't tell me they're going to lose a game. Eventually they will, but how do you beat them? Even Crystal Palace had a 1-0 lead in the 90th minute against them, and Brentford still found a way to get something from that game. So the draw market at 3.5 to 4 screams it. I think we're going to be looking at a draw in this particular game. I think that's a quite likely outcome. I think the 1-1 draw, don't do exact score, but it screams 1-1 draw, frankly, as a lot of these games tend to go with Brentford at this moment in time. The Crystal Palace game, the Arsenal game, and a few others this season. 11 draws. I mean, bet on Brentford the draw for the rest of this season. You're going to win 5 bets from what is left. So look at the draw market. Look at the under 2.5. Look at the Fulham to score first and Brentford to equalise. Look at all goals coming from headers. The Ben Mee header market right up there on my agenda in this particular game. But currently, despite the odds for Fulham, I will not be betting against Brentford. I would certainly say if you fancy a double chance draw and Fulham, go for it. But I think both teams score, look at the draw, and bet on Brentford to draw for the rest of this season.
So that's where all tips and predictions, guys, for Matchday 26 in the Premier League with Tom Rennie. Before we say goodbye, of course, safe bet and ACA, please, Tom.
My safe bet is Arsenal to win this weekend. I would usually go Man City, but Newcastle may well fight their way to a draw in that game. And Arsenal, on their form, are going to beat a really poor Bournemouth side at home. I've no doubt about that. My ACA this week is another treble. 2 or 3 keep coming in. It's getting quite annoying for me now. But I've liked this treble. It's around 7-1 when I looked this morning. Arsenal to beat Bournemouth. Throw that in as the safe bet. under 2.5 goals in the game between Nottingham Forest and Everton, because that is not going to be a thriller. And then, even though it's up in the air a bit, pick an away win in the treble and there's money to be made at around 6-1. So I'm putting Manchester United in there. Arsenal win, Man United win, and under 2.5 in the game between Forest and Everton.
Amazing, some money to be made there also with the ACK. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Tom, a pleasure as always, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye bye.